Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. How are you? Welcome to the weekly VS Code live stream. Your sometimes weekly, mostly weekly VS Code live stream. I know we did miss a week. We actually missed a release party, but we're going to have the next one. We're going to double up, and it's going to be like twice as much fun. What's up, Sanjeev? You're first in. You know what you win for that? Read first into the chat. Nothing at all, but I'll say your name again on the stream, Sanjeev. First in. Doing good. TOS, is that terms of service? Or are we standing for something else? If it's something else, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I just assume it's terms of service. Doing well. How are you doing? You doing good? What's up, chat? QMG. Sorry, you're fourth. What is up? What do we usually do to start the stream off? Oh, you know what we should do? Mark, can you put up like a banner that says what we're about to do? Like what's coming up? Upcoming? And then put that on the screen while we wait for, because here's the deal, chat, as you know, on the VS Code live stream here, we have to wait a little bit for everyone to show up. It's like a party. Everybody's fashionably late. What do we usually do? You know what we usually do is we play a game. Let's play a game while we're getting started here. But before we do that, I'm going to move this here, and then we usually play Wordle, but like the node form, which we call nodal. Naming things is hard. Let's do this. Vim Adventures? What is Vim Adventures? I guess I should do it and find out. Microsoft Edge would like to record this computer screen. Yes, please. Am I not able to share my... No, wait, hold on. Y'all, new computer problems. Go for it. Wants me to quit and reopen, which I'm not going to do. All right, let's do screen one, share. What is... Can we see my screen? No, we can't. We can't do it, chat. There's no screen sharing. A small online game with Vim key bindings. I'm going to check it out. Vim, what's it called? Vim Adventures? Vim, everybody look up Vim Adventures. Learn Vim while playing a game. Oh, you have to like press the keys to move the little... Somebody pull up Vim Adventures and share their screen. Olivia, can you make Vim Adventures work? Y'all met Olivia and Reynald, didn't you? Our new cloud advocates. I was out, didn't get a chance to introduce them, but they've been hosting our last two live streams. Everybody say hello to Olivia and Reynald. They're still here. They're in the background here. Microsoft Edge can record. Does it capture audio? I don't know. Mathel? Never heard of that one either. Man, y'all got a bunch of great games. So what are we doing today? We're doing, we're going to do VS Code. We're going to do Azure ML and a little bit of GitHub Codespaces as well. So this is super exciting for me because I don't know anything about ML. Chat, one, if you know something about machine learning, other than ML stands for machine learning, it has to be more. Like, have you built a model? Have you used like TensorFlow? Yes. No. Nobody's built any models. Well, then you're a good company. I haven't built any models either. I know that ML stands for machine learning. Seth Juarez, who's I'm name dropping now, but he's a fellow that works here and does AI. And he told me once that AI is what you call when you're selling it to people, and ML is what you call when you're doing it, which I thought was interesting. Nope, but would like to know more. Especially create something for working out impact analysis. What is impact analysis? And what tests run based on a code change? I don't even know what that is. But you know who might know all of this stuff? I know somebody who might know. Let's invite her to the stream. Beatrice Stolnitz. Did I say that right, B?
That is perfect.
I got it. I nailed it.
You totally got it. Yeah.
Everybody, welcome B to the stream. She's our resident. What are we calling it? ML? We're doing it, right? We're not selling it. So I guess we're calling it ML. Okay, so it's ML. She's our resident ML expert today.
Yeah. Excited to be here, Bert. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Even though today you woke me up super early. This is early for me.
It's 8 a.m.
Yeah. I can do this.
Yeah. Welcome, B.
Yay.
Thanks,
you.
chat. Y'all are so nice. We have the nicest chat. They're great. Sweet. So what are we, because we can't play Vim Adventures, which I really wanted to play on a VS Code stream. Would that be weird, y'all, to play Vim Adventures on a VS Code stream? No, that's cool because you can do Vim in VS Code. There's like a Vim plugin.
Really?
Yeah, there is.
I already learned something.
I don't know what it does. I assume like it makes it so that only the keyboard works in VS Code and maybe you can no longer close VS Code is what it does.
Yeah.
It removes the close button. That's what Vim does. It just removes the X.
Absolutely, like :WQ, right?
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And
so what?
We're just like telling our age, you know, like just knowing anything about Vim. We're just telling our age here, right?
You know, I once did y'all try to get into Vim? Because I tried. I used to work when I first got into engineering. I worked with a bunch of guys that were doing. They all were doing Vim, and they just were convinced that was like, this is how you become productive with an editor. And I tried. And I could not make it. Hey, Reynolds here. What's up, man?
Oh, sorry.
Wait, Reynolds. You haven't come back. You be on the stream. You can't just.
Well, have you worked with Vim?
I was disabling my camera in the background, and it went off, and I put it back on. I jumped on the screen. Didn't mean to stream bomb you guys.
Well, no. Now you have to tell us about your experiences with Vim.
Yeah, actually, not too much experiences though with Vim. You know, I'm old school. I still like the good old fashioned regular terminal. And
yeah, I'm the same way. I couldn't get it to work. But I do know a good Vim joke. You want to hear it?
Go ahead.
Do you know how to know if somebody uses Vim? Don't worry, they'll tell you. I love you, Vim people. You're more than welcome here. Vim is awesome. All right. B. All right. See you. Sorry. See you, Reynald. Hey, man, come back anytime. All right, B. What are we doing today?
Well, today we're going to talk about the intersection of 3 really cool technologies. VS Code, of course, because we're here. Azure ML and Codespaces. And don't worry if you don't know anything about the other 2. I will give you just a little bit of an introduction. Just so that you get a little bit familiar about it. So I do assume that everyone here knows what VS Code is.
Do you, chat? Do you know what VS Code is? I hope so. We do have people that wander in. They're like, I don't know where I am. YouTube suggested this, and here I am. So
okay. So for those who don't know, it's the best editor in the world. That's what I think. That's the one I use before joining Microsoft. So I do feel very passionate about it.
Don't you get paid to say that, don't you, B?
I do get paid to say that. I know. That is so sad. But I would say it anyway if I didn't get paid for it. How about that? Okay. So the second technology is Codespaces. And Codespaces is just an environment that allows you to run your projects in the cloud in a Docker container. So it basically replicates your local VS Code development, but all in the cloud. And then Azure ML is a cloud service that Microsoft provides that allows you to essentially run machine learning projects, not just run, but like kind of manage your whole machine learning life cycle. Allows you to create a model in the cloud and then to train that model in the cloud, and then to deploy that model, and then allow people to query it through an endpoint. So that's basically it. And it does a lot of other things, but this is kind of like the core of it in a nutshell.
That's Azure ML.
Azure ML.
So this is gonna be a great stream because I don't know what any of that stuff is. Because when I think model, I think like these beautiful Lego buildings back here are models. I don't know how I would put that. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, this is great. And then what are we doing with Codespaces? How does that factor in here?
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is I have this super simple demo app that creates an Azure ML model in the cloud, and we're going to run that on Codespaces in VS Code. So that's where Codespaces comes in. Sweet. So essentially, right. I'm going to teach you how to set up a Codespace that runs your Azure ML projects.
All right, let's do it. While you get your screen up,
all right.
Go ahead and get B's screen up here. Is Azure free for students? I think we have some sort of a deal for students, don't we?
We do. So I actually wish I knew more about that, but I do know that everybody gets $150 free. So if you just sign up for the beta, whether you're a student or not, and I believe that students get more than that. And I just don't know exactly how much and what the terms are. But I do know that they're pretty generous with students. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So producers, if y'all can look up, if somebody behind the scenes can look up that link for folks, we'll put it on here so you know. B, by the way, on the show, we like to ask you questions that you're probably not at all ready to answer. And so that's just part of the fun. So here's one. When will Visual Studio release stable build for Mac 2022? B.
I have no idea.
Yeah. We don't know. We're totally unqualified to answer that question, but I could ask. I don't know how I would follow up with you, but I will ask, and then we'll have no way to get the answer back to you, but at least I will have made the effort. Thank you for that question.
There
B,
you go.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Is my screen being shared?
It is. Could you? Yeah, you're good.
Make it bigger. Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
So I know that the first question that comes up, or a question that comes up at some point anyway, is how do I get Codespaces? And I don't yet have it. Is it ready? That kind of stuff. So right now, so if you have an individual GitHub account, you can sign up for the beta. And this is where you go to sign up for the beta. GitHub kind of features Codespaces sign up. And then you'll be on a waiting list, and eventually, hopefully, somebody would give you access to it. And the cool thing about signing up for the individual account is that it's free. So when you do get it, obviously the team wants feedback, but you can use compute for free. That's really cool.
That's pretty rad. So I'm curious, chat, has anybody here gotten into the beta? I'm just wondering I don't know how open or closed that beta is.
Yeah, so what I heard is that at the beginning, people were getting in pretty easily, and then it's gotten a little harder, obviously, right? Because more people have, signed up for it, and the team can only handle so many of those requests.
That's true.
So I'd be curious to see what people say in the chat.
Fair enough. All right, cool.
Okay. Now, another option, that is released right now, is if you can add... if you already have an organization, a GitHub organization that allows Codespaces, then you can create your project as part of that organization, right? So there's like individual plans and organizations in GitHub. Now, if you don't have an organization, you can sign up for one yourself, like even without it being a company or whatever. And this is the price. So you could literally just pay $4 for 1 month to try the feature, if that's what you choose.
Wait, it's $4 a month?
Yes.
For one person?
For one person. For one organization, one person, yes.
Mine says $40 per user for the first 12 months. Oh, that's actually less. So you pay for a whole year, but $4 a month ain't bad.
Exactly.
For free compute, y'all.
Well, I didn't know it was not free compute. So there's also compute.
Oh, that's an addition.
Yeah. And I like to clarify that. So this is where you would pay for the organization. And if you have an organization, then you can go and set up Codespaces in that organization, and then you pay for compute. And so this is the price for compute. So 18 cents an hour for a 2-core, all the way up to $2.88 for 32 core.
I feel like I should do this, like sign up and pay and then report back chat and let y'all know how much I spent in GitHub in Codespaces compute.
Yeah, that's a really good.
One less coffee a month, yeah.
Right. I mean, as a Microsoft employee, you don't have to do that, as you know, but it's a good experiment.
This is true, but I want to get on the same level with you, chat. I feel like it's not fair. I don't want to cheat. I think I might sign up. Also, you get other cool things. You get 2 gigabytes of package storage, draft pull request, multiple reviewers, protected branches. I don't know. Looks pretty good.
Yeah. I actually did this to be able to explain, by the way, like I did create an organization. Obviously through Microsoft, we have access to this, but I did create an organization, did kind of go through it and enable Codespaces there just so I could understand the flow. So it's actually really not that bad. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Like if you want to try the feature and you don't have access to it because your organization doesn't pay for it yet and you're not getting in the beta, you can try it for $4 plus this compute.
Not bad, Rob. That's not true. It's not little people. Just it's not fair that I have that access because of Microsoft. I should do it fair.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, like chat, would you pay $4 a month for access and then the compute on top? Like, how's that sound to you? I'm just curious if other people would do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, like the $4 a month is just because this hasn't released for individual accounts yet. It's only released for organizations. So we're still in this state where if you want to have it, you need to have an organization or belong to an organization. Eventually, this will be the same for individuals. I would assume that at that point you wouldn't have to pay that kind of monthly thing and you just pay for compute. That's just me guessing. Don't like hold me accountable to this.
We haven't announced anything. Just to say that we know that y'all want access, everybody. And we really, really want to give it to you. And that's all I can say are those two things. It's heavy on our hearts. All right, B, what else?
Yes.
What are we doing to build with ML today? Do you build with ML or you build an ML? You do an ML?
Yeah, you use ML
in
your
ML.
projects. Yeah. So I actually have like this super simple, I'm going to like walk you through the basics. So I have a super simple Hello World project, and I'm going to, so I have Codespaces enabled. And so I'm going to go here and I'm going to show you what the experience is for people who have it enabled. Typically, you would see this thing local, and you would kind of use this to clone your repo. Now with Codespaces, you get a second tab, and I can go here and I can say, I want a new Codespace for this repo. So I click, and now it's going to be working really, really hard behind the scenes. It's going to be building me a container. It's going to be connecting me, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And hopefully eventually, like right now, I get a container in the cloud that runs my code. So let's see if it really runs my code. So I'll show you what the code is first. So I have here a main project that it's just a hello world, super, super simple thing. I also have a machine learning model that I created some other way, like with that I built using PyTorch, which, you know, in a real app, you'd probably be building it in this Python file, but I just didn't want to complicate it here. And I have a YAML file, and this is kind of how what you would use to create this model that I point to here in the cloud on Azure Machine Learning. And once you put this model in the cloud, then you can train it, you can deploy it, you can do all sorts of things to it. So this would be kind of like the first stage in your machine learning kind of workflow. So that's all the project has. So the first thing I want to do here is just run my kind of hello world. I don't think I have the Python extension. Actually, I do have the Python extension, so I may be able to just run it. Okay, so I'm just going to do F5 and see if that works. And it does. So it printed hello VS World VS Code Livestream. Okay, so that works. And that's because I have Python installed in this base image. And why do I have Python installed? Like, why was I even able to do this? Because by default, Codespaces uses this base image So Microsoft VS Code Dev Containers, this is where you can go see all of the containers that Codespaces provides you. And Microsoft already provides you all of these languages in the base Codespace, in the base container that you get without any configuration or anything, including Python, which is really what I care about.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, B, could you scroll up and zoom in on the first line in this Docker file?
Yeah.
Not the first line, that like the first actual code line. You see what we call
Yeah.
that image?
Kitchen sink. Wow.
Yeah, we call it the
I love
kitchen
it.
sink because it literally has everything in it. I don't even know how this image is small enough to be used in Codespaces. They figured it out, but
Yeah.
I mean, everything is there, I think.
Yes. It's funny. I had never noticed that. That's really cool. Okay. So not everything is there, you know, actually. If this is all you need, right? If you just wanted to run Python, that's it. You're done. You're running on Codespaces. You've done your configuration. You don't need anything else, which is pretty amazing, right? But in my case, I do need a little bit more because I want to run this model in Azure ML. So I'm going to need a little bit more configuration. So first of all, there's like this Oryx build command. I'm just going to remove that because Oryx is like a build system, but I don't use it. So I'm just going to remove that. Just discard that file so it doesn't come back. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that there was like this VM folder that got created with this code space that I just had to git ignore it. But you just add it to your git ignore here, and that's done.
Did you bump up your font size maybe like 5 or 6?
You know what? Let me maybe do Windows Plus. Does that help?
That does help. If you can make the font size bigger in VS Code, though, that would probably help a lot. You can just zoom in the browser. Well, you could zoom in the browser. That's one that makes the whole interface bigger.
Oh, yeah. I can do
or you could change the font size in settings. But I think in this case, probably making the whole interface bigger would work.
Okay.
Just be like, yeah, Control Plus, I think will do it.
Okay.
That's better. Is that better, Chad?
Better.
Mr. Holland. Ted. Mr. Holland is my father.
Yep.
All right. I'm Burke. All right.
So we have like a Python project running in the cloud, but we don't yet have an Azure ML project running in the cloud. I can't yet do anything with this model. And so in order to do that, I'm going to go to the command palette and I'm going to, well, this is already here, but if I had to search for it, you just search for dev container and this thing comes up. So do this, and now this is how you configure a different base, right? So we've been using the kitchen sink base, but that doesn't have Azure ML, so I need a different base that does have Azure ML so I can do more things, right? And so there's a few different options of bases that you can choose. You could go to show all definitions and pick, so go to back, show all definitions, and pick the Azure Machine Learning base. But the one that I'm going to pick today is actually not that one. I'm just going to pick the Miniconda base. And then I'll tell you after this, I'll tell you the difference between one and the other and why I would pick one over the other and all that. So I don't want to use Node, so I'm going to just say none here. And I do want to have the Azure CLI configured. I need to have that to be able to run Azure Machine Learning projects. So I'm going to click on this one also. This will just install it for me in the dev container. I'm going to say OK, and let's see what happens. Well, something interesting happened. A new directory was created, a .dev container created with 4 different files here. Right? So we're going to look at them like a little bit slower. So first we get a Docker file. So because we chose the Miniconda base image, then this gives us this Miniconda thing here. And I'm going to just, because we don't want Node, I'm really just going to delete this. You know, you can leave it, doesn't hurt, but we're really not going to use Node. So I'm just going to delete that. This is just to be able to work with Node. I'm also going to delete all the other comments. We don't need any of this. But this thing is really interesting. And this is the reason why I love this Miniconda base so much, is that it gives you a little bit of code that says, when you create this Docker container, run my environment.yaml automatically. when you're starting a container, which is pretty, when you're creating a container, which is pretty amazing. And the environment.yaml is this file. It's like a it like uses the conda kind of system for managing kind of versions of things. Essentially, this is where I put all the packages that I need for my app. In this case, I just need Python, but often I would have like a list of 10 or like 15 packages of things that I need here. And it's really cool to have that created automatically. I don't need to like remember the command line to install this and activate it or anything like that. So this is really not all base images have this. So this is why I'm pointing it out. Why I love
Kind of
this
nice.
so much.
Hey B, could you bump your font size up just one more?
Even more.
I'm so sorry.
All right, just do like that.
There we go. I swear this last time.
Better.
All right, yeah. Just real quick here.
Yeah.
We got somebody who really wants to make a local host. We'll have to do a stream on that, but let's see. Okay. Is there a link to your repo here so people could work it and follow along?
Yes, my repo is github.com/bstolnitz, and I'm going to be using the Codespaces demo base. I know this is very small for people. This is where I could view the Windows Plus.
Okay, can you zoom in on that?
Yeah, and like that. So github.com/bstolnitz, Codespaces demo base is the base image that I'm showing you now. And Codespaces demo without the base is another repo I have where this is already all created. If you don't want to create it yourself, but just want to see the
Thank you for producer for putting that up. All right, excellent.
Awesome.
Let's see here. Hold on, we got one more.
Okay.
We'll do one more and then we'll keep going.
Okay.
I'm looking, because I saw a comment. I was like, I actually answered it in chat, but I wanted to throw it up here, but I can't find it. I'm sorry, but oh, here it is. Do you need to have Codespaces to use Azure ML? No,
you don't. In fact, most people don't. This would be maybe the 1% that has access to Codespaces. You can absolutely use it locally, and that's what most people do.
In VS Code locally.
Just in VS Code.
Azure. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so how much time do I have for?
B, you have all the time you need.
Okay, so I'll continue.
Technically speaking, you have like 30 minutes before. Where people are going to start getting in trouble with their bosses because they haven't written any code in an hour.
Hey, this is useful. This is knowledge, right? All right. So the other file the Docker file, right? We're just going to leave it at that. So super simple. Then there's another file called devcontainer.json that we're also going to look at. That is also very interesting. So this file starts by giving it a name and by pointing to the Docker file that we just saw. So ... and then Docker file. So I'm going to remove this node thing because, as we saw, we're not going to use node at all. And then it has all these settings. These are like VS Code settings, right? And I'm going to remove, it has like one setting for the interpreter, the Python path, the Python interpreter path, and a bunch of settings for linting and formatting. I like to delete these, and the reason is because I don't like adding my linting and formatting in the dev container. And that's because I like to add them in the project, and I typically already have them in the project. I have my PyLint enabled and my YAP formatter. You can look them up to see exactly what they do. And the reason why I like them, they just doesn't make your code prettier and make the formatting of your code a little bit better.
So what's the recommended? I mean, I guess the idea behind putting in the dev container is that everybody then gets those settings in their VS Code. But I've often had this thought as well. Like, I don't want your settings. Don't give me your formatters. But at the same time, I mean, maybe some people want that, right? Like if you want consistency and whatnot. But I've often wondered, especially in that Python image, because there's like 90 settings. I'm like, I don't know what this stuff is or what it does.
Exactly.
But you just pulled it all out.
I pulled it out because I actually do want them, especially because I always provide a PyLint RC and a style.yap. So I'm already assuming that people are going to be using these two with my code, with this particular project. But I like to put them in the settings, because if they're in the settings, they're going to be used whether people fork my repo and use it locally, or they use Codespaces, right? Because I don't care how people get to my code. I just want that if they do a pull request or work on it in any way, I want them to be using this formatting to be consistent with the rest of the app.
Sure, yeah, it makes sense.
And so I don't like them in dev container, because then only people getting to my project through Codespaces would have that set up. So I don't think it belongs there. I think it belongs with the project, regardless of how you open the project, locally or in Codespaces.
All right.
Okay. This is just like an opinionated kind of me saying that, but I do remove them, and this is something I've thought it through with other people that do the same, and so I do feel like they belong somewhere else. Okay, so then it also gives us some extensions. In this case, the Python extension, the PyLens extension. These are like the two really, really important extensions you're going to need to write Python. But if you're doing Azure ML, you actually need a third extension. You need the Azure ML extension, which gives you a bunch of stuff that is just critical to write Azure ML. And so for that, I'm going to go here and I'm going to install it, search for the Azure Machine Learning extension. If I can find it. I did find it. And then I'm going to actually add it to the dev container. I can do it directly like this. And if I add it, and then I go back to my dev container, a third line here was added. This wasn't there before. So that's cool, because that means that when I start my container, it will install this extension by default. When I start it or somebody else starts it.
You'd have to restart it at this point to.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd have to restart to do everything that I said so far, which we will see later.
How long does a container restart take?
So for this particular one, because it's super simple, it takes 5 minutes. And for like machine learning, like if I'm talking about Azure machine learning, so with everything you need for Azure machine learning, but not like everything, not like a million things.
Wait a minute,
It
that
takes 5
container in
minutes.
Codespaces takes 5 minutes to restart?
It does.
So what does the browser do in the meantime? It just sits there and spins for 5 minutes?
Exactly. Yeah, which is why we're not going to see that in the demo. I'm going to show you that it's already built.
I didn't realize the browser tab could remain like that for that long. I thought maybe Edge would just kill it and be like, hey, I noticed this tab isn't doing okay.
Yeah, and you can see the logs while it's doing it. So it's actually kind of cool. Like you see the logs scrolling, and I can show that in a while.
Yeah. Hey, Chad, y'all want to do 5 minutes of watching a container rebuild?
No. I have a rebuilt one. We'll go straight to that one.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to remove some of the comments that we don't need. And also we have a user that we'll keep. And this is the other interesting thing that I wanted to point out, is that while we were like in that UI where we're picking, choose this and that, we said that we wanted the Azure CLI to be installed as a feature, as a special feature. And so this is where it goes. Because we checked that box, this thing here got added to the devcontainer.json. So that's it. So basically when we're doing that kind of flow in the UI, that kind of, how do you want your base image to do? There's two things that we picked. We picked the Azure CLI, which is here, and we picked that we wanted Miniconda, which is here.
Okay, so what happens if I decide, go back to the dev container. Yeah, so what happens if here I decide, actually, I do want, I don't know, the Docker CLI, right? I'm a Docker and Docker and Docker inside of Docker.
Yeah.
Is there IntelliSense here where it will tell you what the other features are?
Wow, there's even like a
Copilot.
Yeah. So what we were talking about?
Do you get, if you do control space, will it give you IntelliSense? Do we pick up features?
Yeah.
Docker in Docker, Docker from Docker? No. What about the .NET CLI? Is .NET latest?
Yeah,
there it is. So
you see it?
What happens if you choose .NET?
.NET latest.
See, I don't know that would work. I don't know how to go back and add features after you've added features.
So you would have to rebuild the container, right? So I think you would have to add them here, just like we're doing, and then rebuild the container. We can't get the UI back, that UI where I picked the Azure CLI. If I do Control
Add
Shift
more
D,
features.
yeah, if I do this, it says it already exists. So you can't do that again with the UI, but you can use IntelliSense, as we just did, to add them here and then rebuild the container.
All right, cool. All right, so
Yeah.
where does the ML part come in here?
That's the next thing. So,
Yeah.
so now that we added the Azure CLI, we also need to add an Azure ML extension to the CLI. And the way to do that is to have this on create command thing, where I will do not quite what code. Yeah, pretty close. AZ extension install, but not quite force and not quite that name. Not install, actually. We need AZ extension add, and then we'll give it a name, which is the ML extension, and we'll say yes, because at some point it's going to ask something, and we just want it to just go. So that's okay. So that's all you need. So it's in terms of like things that are specific to Azure ML, we have the Azure ML extension here, and we have the to VS Code. So this is the extension to VS Code, and we have the extension to the CLI here.
So I assume that's because the Azure ML extension depends on the CLI, and it would prompt you to install the CLI.
Exactly.
Which you would not be around to do because this is happening while the container is building.
Yeah, so the CLI will install anyway because we're telling it to install here.
Oh, right. Sorry, but you need to run that. You need to install that thing,
first,
the extension to the CLI.
Yes.
For the VS Code extension to work. Man, that's a lot of
Exactly.
extensions in a lot of places.
Yeah. So I could just like rebuild the container without the on create command and then do this manually in the terminal, but I don't want to be doing that every single time for every project, right? So I like putting it here.
Makes sense.
And now I have, a devcontainer.json that just does everything, right, for me. I really have to do nothing. And
you've already waited 5 minutes for the container to build.
You don't want to wait another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Exactly. So we got that. So then there's other couple files. This is a legal notice. As a Microsoft employee, I'll tell you leave it there. As a developer, I say if you take it out, you'll be fine. And then the other file we have is this noop.txt, which literally just gives you an error. It makes it so
copy instruction from failing if no environment. Oh,
yes. So if you forget to provide an environment.yaml, or if you call it something different, and you rebuild your container, you'll get an error saying the container has failed, and this is like starts in like a temporary kind of container that where you can see the logs and figure out the issue. And so this just prevents that from happening, like from getting this failure essentially. But I'm going to leave it here for this demo because it's being referred to here. But in reality, in my development, if you go to any of my other repos in my on GitHub, I actually simplify this to remove the no-op, and I remove the no-op.
So what happens if the environment isn't found? It just fails?
It just fails, yeah. But okay. I know that it always, all my repos have this. I always do the same thing in all my repos. So I always have an environment.yaml. So I know I won't forget it, but I know people may, especially if you're not used to it, which is why I'm going to keep it in this demo because.
All right, perfect. All right, I'm excited to get to the ML.
Well, let's rebuild it.
I don't know what it's going to do, but.
Yeah, we're done. So I could do rebuild container now. And one interesting thing is that I actually don't need to commit any of this, right? So there's like 3 things now, right? We have a new .dev container. We have these 3 new files that we just looked at. But I don't need actually to commit it. I can rebuild the container without committing anything, which is nice because I may not be totally sure that this is what I want, right? I just want to try it out, right? So this is when we would do the 5-minute thing and rebuild the container. it gives me this warning: rebuilding recreates your code space, your code, and any current changes will be preserved, but your code space will be rebuilt using your working directory's dev container. And say, okay, rebuild, and then we're gonna switch. So, so this is what's going to be doing for maybe 4 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes. It's going to be building the container. At some point, it's going to give you some logs that you can click at. Yeah. And so here, I like to look at the logs just in case. And so we'll just be doing this for a little while. So we're going to like skip forward in time, which is pretty amazing.
Right there is where you like go to YouTube and then an
Watch
hour later, you're like, whoa, what was I doing? I've watched 16 videos.
Right. Watch little kitten videos for 5 minutes and then come back.
I got distracted. There's my productivity. All right.
Right. So I'm going to actually show you. So this is the demo already created. This already has the dev container. So it's a different repo. And you can find it by going to github.com Beastolnit's Codespaces demo. Okay. So this is already done. This is like the fast forward in the future repo. So this is what somebody's experience would be. So they come to your repo and they have Codespaces themselves. Somebody's paying for it. So either their organization, either typically their organization is paying for it. And so they come here, they're like, ooh, this repo has a .dev container, so I could just run it in the cloud. So they go to code, and you see here that there's already a code space created, which typically, the owner of the repo would have created. The names I love, Continual Spark. Like when I'm having those really dull coding days, this is just about like the highlight of it.
That's the highlight of your day.
Pretty much. Just to see what those days, okay, like you gotta admit, everybody has those days where just everything is failing.
Yesterday was that day for me. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know that this would have saved me though.
Yep. You just like spending 5 minutes and then another 5 minutes and another 5 minutes rebuilding, and it doesn't work. And then you have to rebuild again. But this is already like, it already has done those 5 minutes. So the startup should actually be a lot faster if I'm lucky.
Yeah. How much RAM is in your code space? It seems like she has 32 gigs of RAM. Do you have a 32 gig Codespaces instance? Like how big is it?
That's a good question. I'm going to go to my blog for that to show you. This is actually the post that explains everything that I'm showing you. These are the options. So in my case, because Microsoft gives us, I believe Microsoft gives us the 4-core one, and we don't have a choice, I believe. But like if you have a choice, like if you own your organization and allow yourself to have that choice, or if your organization gives you that choice, then you can, when you create in the code space, these would be your choices. Okay. So I believe that I have 8 gig of RAM for this particular demo that I'm showing. Yeah.
Okay.
So this has already started, so it was pretty fast.
Can you bump that font size up again?
Yep, I will do that. I think we were at 175.
Yeah.
We'll do that again.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now if I were coming to this fresh, I would have, so now this is the Azure ML extension that we installed earlier.
Whoa, you have a lot of subscriptions.
I do. I don't know who did that for me, but that's just like literally when I started on the team, I had all these things.
Do you know? Hey, you can filter these out?
Oh, I didn't. How did I do that?
Yeah, so go to open the command palette in VS Code. Okay. And do just search for subscription, select subscriptions, and then uncheck that top box there to the left, and then just check the ones you want. Somebody had to show me this, and then just say okay, and then boom.
Thank you, Burke.
I can't take credit.
I love it.
Somebody else did that for me.
I love it. Well, you can take credit. I would not have heard about it if it weren't for you. So
every MS employee out there with all those subscriptions, you get added to a ton. You're like, I don't know what this is, or I don't think I should have access to this.
Exactly. I don't use any of the others. So this is so awesome, Talk. I learned something else.
By the way, does that terminal shell? Your terminal shell does look nice. We're gonna have to talk about that in just a second.
I have a plan for this. I'll talk about that in the end.
Okay. All right. We're getting a little ahead.
We're getting there.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, so here I'm already signed in. So if you hadn't been signed in, it would just tell you like sign in, and you'd click on it and you'd sign in. And then I also already chose like my default machine learning workspace. I only have one, so that's my default. And the way you choose your default is by clicking on this thing, on this little pin. And then I have like everything that I have in the cloud, and in particular, like my models. We can look at all my models that I have as Azure machine learning models. So I have these 4 models already created. But I don't have this model, this is my model test. I don't have that model. And I'm going to create this model. And also, let's also look at the Azure ML Studio. So this is the kind of the same thing. It gives you the same information as this, but like in the Azure ML Studio. And so if I go to models.
Can you bump that font size again?
Yep.
Sorry, it's just a constant.
Sorry, you may have to tell me every time.
tab. Yeah.
I forget. Anyway, so like if I go look at my models in my Azure Machine Learning Studio, these are my models. So these are the 4 models that I have created, which is the same thing that you see here. Okay, so what I really want is to create this model in this YAML file. And just as a reminder, this model points to this PyTorch model that I created, that I trained in a different app, and I just brought in the trained model here, and I want to register that in the cloud. And so the way to do that is to right-click and to do Azure ML execute YAML, and then wait and hope that the demo gods are with us today. And then it will do no. Okay.
Oh, you have
so
to reauthenticate.
I have to, yeah. So the thing about AZ login, doing AZ login from Codespaces, is that you need to use device code. You can't just do AZ login because you're within a browser. AZ login would require like access to being able to create a pop-up browser, which you can do from within the browser. So that's something. So I'm actually glad this came up, because then I get to warn you about that. And so in order to use device code, I have to enter the device code that I copied. And then you're going to see me going through this tedious login. And this is my email in case you want to contact me for any questions.
You can email B about anything else.
And I'm already authenticated in this page, so I'm just going to use my current user. And hopefully.
Man, you make logging in look easy. It's never that easy for me.
Actually, usually, well, without AC login would actually be easier. You know, the thing that I think makes it more complicated is really this. Wow, these are all my subscriptions. Is this use device code thing, but they give you instructions here. They say to sign in, use a web browser, open this page, and then enter the code to authenticate. So that's what you do.
Not too bad.
And then the other tricky thing is to know that you have to use the use device code to log in if you're on Codespaces. But perfect. I'm telling you that, so now you know.
All right, B, we got about 10 minutes before we got to land this plane.
All right, we can do that. So now that we're logged in, in fact, we can do it in less than 10 minutes even. Let's do this again. And hopefully this will work this time. So it's executing AZML model create. And now let's go.
Yo, that looks like success.
Yeah, let's refresh. Woohoo!
Boom, there it is.
Look at that. Model test created March 31st at 8:48 a.m.
Huh? So early. You should still be in bed.
I should. I know. I blame you for that, Bert.
No, it is my fault. I'm sorry.
So that's it. I mean, that's the demo. You know, there's a couple other things I could still talk about if there's a little bit of time, which is the choice of the Miniconda base. So there's other choices. So there's that Azure Machine Learning base that I told you about, and these are like the different the bases like that you can find online if you go to Microsoft VS Code Dev Containers, you can see them all.
Can you zoom in on that? Yeah, you can see all of our container definitions if y'all are interested.
Yep. So, oops, like there. And And basically, the difference between the Miniconda and the Azure ML one is that the Azure ML one will give you the Python SDK, which some people love it. And so if that's the case, then you should use, if you want to use that, you should use that. But it won't give you, it still won't give you like the Azure CLI and the extension to CLI. So you still have to do exactly all the steps that I showed. And the other thing that the Azure Machine Learning doesn't give you is that nice, it's in the Docker file, that nice code that installs your environment.yaml, which I love. It doesn't give you that automatically.
So B, did we talk about this already? Can I use Bash? Since somebody, I don't know if we asked this question already, but can we talk about the terminal? Like, how did you make it? We talked about that, right? Like you had a blog post on this?
Yes, so terminal. So I use dot files to configure my terminal. And I set up my dot file. So if you go to settings, to your regular settings, and then Codespaces, there's like this thing that says dot files, automatically install dot files. So I check that. I put in my repo that has my dot files. And then in my repo that has dot files, that's what installs my, so it runs this install.sh thing. And in this install.sh thing, essentially creates symbolic links to all the other files in my directory and installs this beautiful font that I love, this Powerline font, which is kind of what gives me these.
So Powerline is the name of that font that you got there.
Yeah, exactly. It gives like these little kind of thingies that you see here.
Yeah, the source control icons.
Right.
So quick question, can you show which Visual Studio is best for students? Can you answer that question?
I don't know. I mean, I would definitely use VS Code, not Visual Studio. I believe the Visual Studio is paid, isn't it? And VS Code is free.
I think they have a community edition. I would say it really depends on, if I can answer this as best I can here, it really depends on what you're trying to do, what you're after, right? So you have two different types of editors here. VS Code is a text editor that you can extend with extensions, right? So it starts off kind of simple, and then you can add things to it, and you can do pretty much any kind of dev in there. Visual Studio is an IDE, so it's all encompassing, right? So when you download it and install it, it's going to give you everything that you need to do, say, C# development, right? So especially if you're doing C#, you might want to consider Visual Studio, but it really just depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the perfect answer. Yeah, when I was doing C# I'd always use Visual Studio.
Today's session slogan, can you zoom in again, please? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So well, this stream is going to be called Please Zoom In Again. Oh man, I just did it on my own. Hold on.
I did it before they asked. I'll take credit for this one. So bstolness dot files is where you can go see my dot files, and you can see there everything that I did to configure my terminal. And feel free to use it for your own projects. Like you can just literally do the same thing I did. Just go here and point to my dot files. And I use ESH and Powerline font.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. All right, chat. Any other questions? I see Christos is here. What's up, man? Thanks for being here. Answering questions, doing work in the chat for us. Appreciate you. Shout out to Active Directory, right? Yeah. You still doing Active Directory? Awesome. Let's see. What do you use? What you use to zoom on desktop? Identity. Oh. Yeah. Identity. Y'all check out Azure Identity. But yeah, what do you use to zoom on desktop? Like in VS Code, I assume? Or no, you mean like, yeah. I think they're asking, how are you zooming into your screen like that when you show the address bar?
Like this?
Yeah.
I'm using Windows Plus, which is the accessibility. It's like feature, so you can do Windows less, Windows minus, Windows plus, and then Windows escape to go back to full view.
Yeah, that's a great question. I saw Scott Hanselman do that many years ago when I was just gotten into programming. I was following, and I would watch him zoom into the screen. I'm like, how's he doing that? Yeah. I think it's the accessibility.
And it goes where your mouse is, which is nice. So if I want to show you like this, I'll do this.
And Mac has something similar, but you have to turn it on. It's like you hold Control and scroll. I forget. All right, folks. Please, thank you, B. Thank you so much for being here with us today. That was awesome. I learned a ton. What should people do now? Like, chat has the rest of their day with nothing to do. What should they go do?
So there's a good resource I want to point out for Azure Machine Learning to keeping up to date, which is the Tech Community Microsoft blog. Anything that is at the intersection of VS Code and Azure ML and Codespaces will be there, in addition to this show and other VS Code resources, but it will also be there. Also my blog, shameless plug here. My blog is so let's do Windows Plus. It's b.stolnitz.com/blog. And if you want to see a little bit, to learn a bit more in more detail, everything that I talked about here, this is the blog post, Configuring Azure ML Projects to Run on GitHub Codespaces, where I run through the exact same thing I showed here. This is all things you've seen, but very slowly and with a little bit kind of more explanation of why things are done the way they are.
Awesome. So check that out, y'all. And then Ryan, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you've learned a lot and enjoyed this stream very much. Either way, man. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Check out B's blog. All right, chat. Please thank B for being with us today. B, you're so gracious. Thank you for your time. Thank you for getting up at an hour far too early for any developer. I apologize. It's against some law somewhere.
It should be.
Thank you for being with us. Y'all, listen, like and subscribe, right? If you're on YouTube, you're already there. You might as well hit the subscribe button so you can catch these shenanigans every week. Hang out with us on TikTok. Are y'all on TikTok? Anybody? Yes? No? Can I get a 1 if you're on TikTok? I feel like everybody's on TikTok now. Anyway, hang out with us there. Shenanigans there as well. And then I think that's it, y'all. Usually we do a meetup URL, but that URL is so long and ridiculous. I feel like it's pointless at this point. Like nobody can type it in. It's like a link to an Office document. Could I say that on the stream? Look, they're not good looking links. All right. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much, chat, for being with us. We love you. It's true. The way we love tacos, that's how we love you. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you, B. And we'll see y'all back here, same time, same place, next Thursday. Talk to you later.
Bye.